Hi everybody, it's Jama Malmi. Thanks for joining me today and welcome to another Creative Design Team video collaboration. Today we're featuring this awesome 6x6 Brights stack as well as this Operation Smile stamp set called Every Bit of Wonderful. And who doesn't love a great floral set? And I also love all the sentiments that are on here. You can see I've already given this a lot of love on other projects, and today we are going to do a super fun project. I know you're going to love it. These are all past popular kits. You may recognize this from Craft On, and they have been just shrunk down into a 6x6 size, so they lend themselves better to card making. So let's go ahead and jump into the project, and I hope you enjoy.
I'm going to start out doing some blending with my Distress Oxides. I have seedless preserves and picked raspberry, and I'm blending it on with my ink blending tool. Notice I'm starting off of the paper and using my all-purpose mat because that will clean up real nicely. And I'm starting out with small circles and then gradually going bigger as I blend further onto the page. So I'm going to turn around the paper and do the same thing. I've got a paper towel under my hand just so that I don't get too inky. And in case I have any water on my fingers, I didn't want it reacting yet with the inks. So my picked raspberry isn't quite as juicy as the other one, so it's taking a little bit more time to blend it. But as I blend the two colors together, it blends so nicely, and that's the beauty of the Distress inks. I always say another great thing about Distress Oxides. I just love the Distress Oxides because there's so many cool things you can do. Watch this. I am stamping with water, you guys. I sprayed a little bit of water down onto my all-purpose mat, and I'm just picking up a thin layer with my stamp, and look at that reaction immediately. The Distress Oxide reacts with the water and immediately oxidizes and starts turning white. So I used my paper towel to pick up any excess water, and as I was playing, I realized you really don't need much water on your stamps as you do this. So actually kind of a less amount of water is better so that it doesn't glob up and create kind of a puddly look. So I stamped off as I picked up more water just right back onto my onto my all-purpose mat, and just kept going and used random stamping around this to sort of, instead of random stamping with ink, I'm random stamping with water to take off the ink. And I started with my biggest image, and then I went down to the next smallest and the next smallest until I had some smaller images to fill in. And this is a great set to do this because there are so many various sizes of stamps. And you'll see on the next card how that really plays out. I sprinkled more water onto the panel to create water drops, and look at just how cool that is. So I'm going to set that aside and work on my second panel. So this one I am random stamping with the various stamps in this set and using ink. I'm using archival black ink because that's the ink I prefer. It's a nice dark black, and it is waterproof. You could use the intense black as well if you have that. That's also waterproof. I like the archival because I feel like I get a darker black, but it does stain your stamps a bit more too. So just keep that in mind. So I started again with my biggest stamp, and then I will keep moving to the next smallest stamp and working in visual triangles and kind of keeping the rule of 3 in mind. I stamped around, and then the reason you want to start with the biggest one is because then the smaller ones will fill in the little gaps where you need another stamp. So like I mentioned, this set is great for this because there's so many different sizes and a variety of small, medium, and larger stamps. So I was able to fill in a lot of the white space that I had without having to use the same small image, right next to each other. So now I'm going to do a little bit of watercoloring, and I sprayed each of these Distress Oxide inks with water, and then I'm picking them up with my water brush, and I'm speeding this up quite a bit so that I could show you most of the process, but I'm not being careful at all, guys. This is just, it's so easy. You don't have to stain the lines. The idea of mixed media is that you've got kind of that messy look, and you don't have to be perfect, and just go with it. And sometimes you might not like it exactly. Like right there, I got too much ink the first time I used the seedless preserves on that big flower. But as it dries, it lightens a little bit, and it's not as noticeable later on. So if you think you mess up when you're using these inks, just keep going and wait and see if you like it once it starts drying a little bit. So once I colored all that in, I pulled out this mixed gloss spray, and I just unscrewed it from the bottle, and I'm spraying it on with that little thing that's inside to give it that spray look. Now, this was the first time I used this, and I'm really liking it. It sits right on top of the paper and gives a nice glossy shine wherever you put it. You could also spray it onto your projects. With this project, though, I just wanted to add some splatters because you know me, I like my splatters. So then I pulled out my black shimmer brush and I added more splatters on each of these panels, and then my backgrounds were done. I set them aside to dry and then came back to turn them into cards. So here I'm playing with the different papers from the Bright Stack, and I really like that yellow behind that panel on the right. It brings out the yellow in the centers of the flowers. And then I'm trying to find a paper to go with the one on the left, and I'm thinking, well, this one might work, and that's the paper I had in mind as I chose the colors and as I was creating that panel. But then later on, you'll see I actually didn't even use that. I thought that the Distress Oxide background was busy enough and was the showstopper. It really didn't need any patterned paper, but I still love these papers, and I will definitely be using them on more projects. I just didn't end up using them as much on these cards as I had originally intended. But I did really like it on the back of this card, and as I finish this up, I'm going to use a couple of the sentiments from this stamp set as well. And so this one is "You Are Every Bit of Wonderful," and really like that just right in the center of the card. So these backgrounds are so interesting and have so much going on and are the showstoppers of the cards. So I wanted to make everything else simple. So I just had a sentiment in the middle, wanted to give it a couple of mattes. So I pulled out some black cardstock and then thought, well, it needs a second matte. And I created my own paper with the Distress Oxides to match the background and make sure that everything matched perfectly. So another cool thing you can do, you can swipe the Distress Oxide right onto your cardstock and create your own color by adding as much or as little water as you want. And then I dried it and used that as my mat, and it looks super cute. So I was playing with which one I wanted on the outside. I wanted the seedless preserves just under the sentiment, and then the black on the outside of that. I thought that's what made it stand out a little bit better. Now I'm using some thin 3D foam tape on this so that it doesn't give as much dimension as I used to pop up that background. And the nice thing about the thin 3D foam tape is that you can just really easily tear it. I'm just cutting down the mat with my scissors, and then I will put this onto the black mat as well. So these Operation Smile stamp sets, there's always one with every new catalog. So this one just released with this annual catalog, and it will be around for the next year. And Close to My Heart donates $7 for every stamp set, every Operation Smile stamp set that's purchased. So this is a full D-size stamp set, which is $18.95 US. And $7 of that goes toward Operation Smile, which is a nonprofit group that helps with life-saving surgeries for children who have cleft lip or cleft palate all over the world. And only $240 is needed to do this surgery to help these kids. So when you purchase this stamp set, you are helping for that amazing cause. So it's a win-win situation. You get this great stamp set and you're also going to feel good about helping these kids. So definitely be sure to check out this stamp set, and I will link that in the description below for this video. So now on to finishing the second card. I pulled out some black ore paper. It's a very shimmery cardstock, and it's a very thick, high quality cardstock. It's new. And I wanted to back it with that, but I didn't want to waste anything. So I gutted out that center, and then I thought, well, I want to add a little bit more dimension to this. And so I ran it through a embossing folder. This is one of the new embossing folders that was just released, and it works beautifully on this shimmery cardstock. So then I mounted that on foam tape, because the foam tape, just like I did with the other card, it does help any warping, which there wasn't a lot of warping with these panels because I didn't use a ton of water, but it helps with any warping. And then it also lifted it off of that embossed panel so you can see it just a little bit better. Now I tried working in this striped paper, and I trimmed off just the colors in the card from the multicolored stripes, and I just really wasn't liking it, even just little pieces of it with the card. So I scrapped that idea and just went with the background. And added some flower die cuts. So this is another new die set. It has 4 different sizes of flowers, so you can make a large flower or a small flower. And I layered up 2 of the smaller flowers. So here I'm creating my own cardstock again with the picked raspberry. And I'm going to die cut one of the smaller flowers out of that as well. And then I layered those together onto the card and decided I think I want the card to be sideways, so it's landscape orientation, and that would fit the sentiment a little better. But I wanted to anchor it, so I wanted to have some cardstock going across, so I grabbed those inside pieces of the black shimmer paper that I cut out of the base of the card and cut those into 3/4 inch strips. And you saw that it wasn't long enough to go across the whole card, but that's okay. I just used the strips of it, which will be covered by the flower. So I've got the 2 strips going across, helps anchor that flower. And I'll put on the other side here, and then I'll layer up that flower. I decided to also use the next biggest size flower. Both of those are cut out of the purpley holographic paper, which again is another new product. It looks purple right here, but as I hold things over it, you see it kind of changes in the light. And that's a really cool thing about the holographic paper, is it kind of changes with what it's next to. So sometimes it looks a little pink, sometimes it looks purple. It is mostly more on the purple side though. I'm going to tuck my sentiment in underneath that flower. I added more embellishing thread and some glitter gems and regular sparkles. And now for the center, I added a big blob of black stickles. And when that dries, you see right here, it just looks really cool. Now here are more still shots. You can see here how that holographic paper looks so different in this shot. But look at that background. Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. It just adds so much fun detail to this card. Here are both cards finished again, and thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this, and be sure to check out all of the other design team members' projects because they are going to wow you with their projects as well. Be sure to pick up your Every Bit of Wonderful Operation Smile stamp set and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.